Arrivano domande anche dal pubblico, Credo.
All right, we are live with the filmmakers that could be with us today from Shorts Block 4. We have Dennis Kalo and Bethany Watson from Lonely Hearts, Kevin McTurk from The Haunted Swordsman,
Hi.
April Kelly, Nat Lertsema, and Sarah Huxley from Uzo and Blackcurrant. Congratulations on your world premiere, you guys.
Thank you, so exciting.
Andrea Corsini from Farine. How do you, am I saying that correct?
Same, because it's in Italian, it's Ferine. It's in English, it's Ferine. Yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome and thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate you taking the time to be on this chat. And I know that I think April, Nat, and Sarah and Andrea are in a completely different time zone than us. So just thank you for being here.
We weren't doing anything else.
Yeah. So Saturday
No
night
plans.
we were staying in.
Yeah, it was just staying in. Got nothing happening.
Very nice. Well, we have people watching now. If you folks that are watching in the YouTube viewer are not seeing a chat window, you can click on the YouTube logo at the bottom of your viewer, and that'll bring you to watch the video in YouTube, and there's a chat window on the side. And I'll be looking at that to see if you guys have questions for any of these filmmakers. But I will get us started off. I'm just going to go in order of how you guys are on my screen, just so that I can skip around a little bit. So Dennis and Bethany, did you create this film together? Did you write it together?
Yeah, we created it. Yeah, it was very collaborative. Dennis, you did most of the writing. We fleshed out the story together. And then, but when it really came down to like the whole creative process of producing the film, that was on your end, Dennis, because you directed it and you wrote most of it.
Yeah, and I mean, like the look and everything, the giallo look was all that was in my head. I wanted that kind of like very 70s feel to it with the slowness at the beginning, and then it kicks in, but then it just becomes a comedy about two friends. But yeah, Bethany did a lot of work on her character. But yeah, it was definitely collaborative, 100%.
Nice. And that was lovely. Like Bethany, your character, you really kind of got a great sense of who she was just from like the set production, like the production design, and your facial expressions and like just kind of your mannerisms and everything, which is wonderful to see.
Thank you so much. We fell in love with her. I love her so much. And I know it said a lot, like, oh, I just fell in love with the character. But I really did. She's so earnest. And I think that there's something that's really charming, especially now, about really earnest people, because I think we all have kind of a massive chip on our shoulder and we're all trying to look like we're someone that we're maybe not. And so Celeste just doesn't have that about her. She approaches the world without knowing really what's going on, because she lived in a cult for the first like 13 years. So we love her a lot.
And I just wanted to say that our production designer Anna Freimuth did an incredible job. She kind of took everything that was in my head and made it possible with all of Bethany's. That's Bethany's apartment that we used at the Celeste's apartment is Bethany's apartment. So I just wanted to make sure that we gave our due, to Anna.
Yeah, she was amazing. Yeah, she took all my stuff and moved it around and made it beautiful. So I need her to just kind of style my life at this point.
And your cats.
And my cats, yeah.
And your cats. I don't know about anyone else, but I have bathroom envy.
Thank you. Thank you.
And was that something that just was a happy accident with this black and white theme, because of the white bathroom with the black accents, and then your white cat and your black cat and the white robe and the black robe?
It was a happy accident that we leaned into, if that makes sense. Just in having those two cats, I just fell in love with two cats who happened to be black and white, and shooting in my apartment, and it just fit that Celeste would also just be a cat person. And then as we pulled wardrobe and stuff, and things worked or didn't work, it really did end up being kind of a light and dark. So part happy accident, I would say, and part seeing it happen and move in that direction.
And just to add about the cats, Celeste, one of the greatest things that Bethany came up with was when she lays down at the beginning, it's because she doesn't understand how to love them because she's a serial killer. So we were kind of grappling with like, well, if she's a murderer, she's really trying to understand these two little things that are walking around, that she tolerates them, So like that's why that was something that Bethany came up with that was pretty great about Celeste's character and the cats.
I forgot about that. Thanks.
There's something so relatable about just that laying on the bathroom floor. I know we've all in our 20s have done that many times, I'm sure.
I feel like that's how you know you've hit a certain rock bottom, like whatever your rock bottom is. It's like, oh, I'm on the bathroom floor again. Okay, well, let's figure life out. Here we are again.
We actually have a question in the chat from Stephanie Siskind for Lonely Hearts. What was the significance of all the Loki-O cereal boxes?
Oh, Dennis, do you want to take that?
Yeah. So we had Celeste has a tremendous backstory. We actually were developing Lonely Hearts for a series. So their story is going to continue, and we're going to learn more and more about Celeste. But we created this incredible backstory for her, that when she was rescued from the cult, rescued because she actually loved being in the cult. She was only eating certain kinds of foods there, like natural foods and chickens, and she would kill anything that she ate. So when they were trying to get her to talk, they didn't know how to get her to talk. So she's never eaten sugar or refined sugar in her life. So they were like, all right, just get her some cereal. So she suddenly discovers sugar in this, and like eats the entire bowl. And so Loki-O, it was a box of Loki-Os, and we named it after her cat Loki, and it's designed after his face. And so when we release it online, there's actually going to be an 80s like a life, or like almost like a life cereal commercial at the very beginning of the film. It's going to be a Loki-O's commercial with this horrifying puppet that Bethany made. But I put it in there as kind of like I love 80s and 70s horror, and I love that in the 80s there was always product placement. I mean, they do it even now. So I said, we're going to advertise our own product and put it in every single scene of the film. So
and we just have empty Loki-O's boxes like all over our apartments. So if anyone wants a Loki-O's box, we can send one to you.
You can totally put those on eBay.
Yeah, that's
or Etsy. Put them on Etsy. Sell them. So I'm going to move on. We're going to skip around. We'll circle back as we get more questions and things in that, because I do have some more questions for you. But April, Nat, and Sarah. So this is the world premiere of Ouzo and Blackcurrant, which was a wonderful, wonderful sort of modern technology ghost story with two friends who meet up after, it seems like maybe they've graduated college, or they're reuniting after a long time, and it's clear they're very good friends. What was the idea behind that setting, and then also using the phone as part of the scariness?
Well, it was two things actually. Like, we have a feature film that we're working on together called Murder Fans, that we've been working on for about 4 years. And in Murder Fans, we have that motif of holding up your phone and the phone identifying with its like face recognition app, like identifying something that you can't see because it's a ghost. And we wanted to play with that in a short film. And Sarah's uncle has had this car graveyard. He's a hoarder.
He's an old farmer who's a hoarder,
man.
And has
he has
many
13 chainsaws
and vehicles in a
but I've hidden
field.
2 because I don't want my brother to find them.
I was like, Nat, I've got this free location. Why don't we just shoot something there? So we did.
Yeah. It's crazy, that field. It's insane. Like, he's just like, he's trundled a loads of cars into it, and they've rotted for a decade.
Yeah. It made the local map. It's called the car graveyard, or It for Locals. It's actually like on the map. So it was a wonderful free location.
So you didn't have to do anything to dress the set, or you just kind of showed up and everything was perfect as you went?
No, not really. I mean, to be fair to our production
we
designer,
dragged the old sofa out, Nat. That took a while.
That's true. We dragged the
and
sofa.
we did chop
that
down
took
a
all
lot of
3
weeds.
minutes. Yes. We chopped down a load of weeds. You took out 2 octogenarians to chop down weeds and sent photos, and I was like, please make sure they don't have a heart attack.
Yeah, that was my dad and my uncle together. They made the yellow car accessible and then clean the inside so we could pour the poor local girl that came to do the end shot. We had to lay down bin liners so she could get into the old creepy car. But,
we were like, don't touch anything. I think it's probably got like just dreadful mold everywhere. Just be careful.
Yes.
But your dad and your uncle clearly thought we were mental. It was like we were rummaging through their bin going, this is art.
Like,
and they were like, no,
amazing.
We were like, no, here's art.
And how was the so Sarah, were you always going to be playing your character, and how did you find Esta?
Well, I was actually in an episode of Silent Witness, which is a sort of BBC murder show with
It's like an
Sherelle.
institution.
Yeah, and we sort of met at the rehearse reading, and then we travelled to set together on the day that we were filming. And when we were looking for that other role, I was like, I put her in the mix. And a friend of mine who cast it was like, oh, she's great. And it just all came together really nicely. And also she's from the Midlands, where I'm from. So I am from Shropshire, where it's set. And she's from just outside Birmingham. So we're like Midlands girls anyway, which
That's
worked really
so
well.
very local for an American audience.
Oh, yes, sorry.
I'm off the
Midlands.
A601 and the Americans are going, yeah,
But we
absolutely, that
grew up
means something
maybe,
to me.
I don't know, 50 minutes away or an hour away from each other. So it felt really authentic as well, because it's like it had that understanding of the same type of area and upbringing.
But it was really interesting, Sarah being a producer and then also being an actor in it, because you definitely get to a point where like you're heading towards set and you're like, stop producing now. None of your business.
That's why
I'm like, I'm not going to worry about catering.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, this is
But
none of your,
April came
who
in.
cares where the bin bags are, Sarah? That is not
Yeah.
your business. Now you're acting.
Got it.
And you were very good for that.
I do love how when you say, Esta, come here, and she's not like, what's wrong, like in so many things.
I know,
she's like, okay.
I felt that so clearly. Like I did not want like a heroine in a horror short to be like, what's happening? It's like as soon as, because I just feel like if you're a woman and you're like walking through, I don't know, a park with a friend, and if you say to your friend, come here, she immediately goes, oh my fuck, we're in trouble. Oh no. I don't know, I feel like you feel like danger is around you fairly constantly, right?
That was a really nice like truthful moment, and I love that.
Oh, good. I'm glad you like
Thank you.
Good.
So we have some questions in the chat window for Kevin. Daniel Webb asks, he's wondering about how the Swordsman film was made. He said it looked like a combination of stop motion and CGI, but then somebody else said, how many puppeteers did it take to film The Haunted Swordsman?
Yeah. Well, it was not stop motion. It's all live action. And there is a little bit of, there's very minimal CG for a couple lines of dialogue, because the puppets, which are, that's from the new one, and that's from the previous movie, Millet Calder's End. They're about 3 or 4 feet tall, and they take about anywhere from 3 to 4 puppeteers to move them. And but this time around, I had a bigger budget. Millet Calder's End was more of a gothic horror, like a Hammer horror film, and then I always wanted to do a samurai film. So the samurai one, I had a bigger Kickstarter budget, so I was able to make one of the characters was a full human scale severed head that could talk. So it was animatronic. There were mechanisms in it, and I always wanted to do animatronics. So these aren't animatronic; they're just like standard bunraku puppets that the people are behind each puppet and they're moving it around. So yeah, no stop motion.
That animatronic head was fantastic.
Oh, thanks. That was, and James Hong did the voice for it. So I always loved his voice, and he was just as cranky as you would imagine to record. And we cut all of the stuff, all the recordings together at like a radio play before we filmed anything. So we brought the audio on set and played the audio playback, and then the puppeteers would just work the radio controls, and it took like a take or two, and then they would have the lip sync down. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So I noticed, we've seen Millet Calder's End and the Statement of Victor Carlock, and like you tend to get some really talented people for your films. Are these people that you just know from the industry and just kind of ask as a favor, or are these people that you've sought out specifically for these voice parts?
It's a little bit of both. I work in a special effects company, so we have actors coming in, and I've been around some of these folks and got to know them and kind of pitched the idea to them. And once they see like one of the puppet films I do, they're on board. Others are more like a cold call, or I'm calling. We used Jason Scott Lee, and he lives in Hawaii. He lives off the grid, so he just grows potato, like taro potato, and so he only checks his emails once every couple of weeks. And so we pitched it to him, and actually I have a friend in Hawaii who has a recording studio, so he just went to the place and recorded. And then I've worked with Christopher Lloyd a couple times, and so over the years he's really he always seems to make time to come out and do a recording, and it's only about an hour of his time, but it's a lot of hoops to jump through with his managers and things like that. So it's been great working with these people. And then I record them, and then I don't see them for, they don't see the final project for another year and a half or 2 years later. So it's a long, slow process.
That was going to be another question that I had, was how long does it take from recording and then building? Do you have the puppets built, or do you do the recording first? Like, what is the process, and then how long does that take?
We usually record as we're building the puppets, and that's about a 6-month period to get all the puppets built. And we would just record whoever we could get, a month here and then a month later. And then so we would shoot, we would build a set, we would shoot a weekend, and then we'd not shoot, we build the next set like a month later and shoot the next set. And so we did this about 7 times. So it was really about 7 months of shooting, and then building the next set and shooting, and then we go out to location and film out there too. So I kind of describe it as it's like a lot of fun, but it's also like root canal for 7 months. You're just kind of it feels like it never ends.
So are you kind of doing this in your free time?
Yes.
Because you have a day job.
I have a day job, and I worked on Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and that got in the way. And so we stopped, and I couldn't work on for a few months. And then the other crew members were all working on other things, Mandalorian and other projects. So they would get booked and not be able to come out and puppeteer. So finding those windows of time really stretched it out to what it was. So yeah, I have a normal job.
Sorry, Brian's like passing me notes in the background. So one last question from Hisham Zubi for Haunted Swordsman. He said he noticed in the credits that Guy Davis was the production designer, and wondered if that's the same Guy Davis who's a comic book artist. Yes,
that's the same Guy Davis, and he's transitioned from comic books. He did a lot of Hellboy and BPRD, and a great comic book called The Marquis, and then he's transitioned to doing production design mostly for Guillermo del Toro. So he designed on Crimson Peak and Pacific Rim and Shape of Water and the new Pinocchio, and he's everything Guillermo does, he wants Guy to design. So Guy and I struck up a friendship, and he just I would just send some rough, really awful sketches, and then he would turn them into set designs and creature designs.
Nice.
Yeah, same Guy Davis.
Everything, I mean, for the time it took, and trying to get everyone's schedule synced up, it came together so beautifully. It's such a wonderful film. When my dad saw it, it took him probably, he said, 5 minutes to realize that they were puppets and not people.
Oh, that's great.
He's like, geez, these guys are really stilted. And then he's like, wait, are those? Oh my God.
Yeah, and on purpose, we didn't give the lead character too many lines, and we had him very stoic, so it kind of worked. Him being a puppet anyway, he didn't have to say much, and we had a couple. There's another expression head that goes on when he's really angry, so that we switched that out. When he's fighting or when he's running, he has this angry face. So he had two faces. And,
that's what we did with Sarah.
Just put a different head on there.
Just the two emotions. It's all she's got, but she does them very well.
So for Christopher, Siren is, I mean, what we would call an experimental film, and I have a soft spot in my heart for some good experimental horror films. What was the genesis of your film? Like, what was the idea behind this? Because it's really interesting. There's two women driving. It takes you a little while to kind of truly understand everything that's happening. And even when I got to the end, I think I understood, but it was still a little mysterious. It was like my brain was like, yes, I understand. It's a little reprogrammed. But can you talk a little about the process of where the story came from for you, and then like just how stylized the lighting is and the performances and everything?
Well, let's see, I'll do my best. So it just so happens that when I created, when I was dreaming up this movie originally, it originally came from my own experience when I was a young man. When I was like 10 years ago, I was speeding down the road at about 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I actually got pulled over by a cop. So some of what you saw in the movie, like actually made it in. I like taking very harrowing moments from my life and just trying to justify them by putting them into my art. I also was like really influenced and inspired by movies such as Mulholland Drive, Under the Skin, as well as Errol Morris's The Thin Blue Line. I remember seeing that one in theaters, and I was really struck by how the extreme close-ups, the fetishistic shots of the police light bars in that movie made such an impression on me that it was just one of many qualities that just made me that made this whole project form in my mind. And I was really anyways it was just something that I had to get out.
Okay. Interesting.
Let me
Where
see.
Where did the songs come from?
Oh
I mean, obviously it's like the alphabet, but you changed it up. And does that have some specific meaning to the?
It does. So the cops, I originally imagined them as like sirens from Greek mythology that were that existed for for centuries on end. They're like godlike immortal figures that essentially like wreak havoc and and essentially like influence evil upon the world. Let me see so coming from that angle, I did an awful lot of research into like Greek mythology and sirens, but nobody could really say per se like what the siren songs, like the songs that would compel the shipmates to steer their ships into the rocks. Like nobody really knew exactly what that song would be. So because I was also intrigued by the process of the police, that the police make people who are usually drunk, walk back and forth, touching their nose and saying the alphabet. I figured that not only did that tie in with the aspect of with Brooke essentially being turned into a little girl, and essentially like the women being essentially taken back, their minds are essentially regressed back to that kind of like infant stage period. I mean, the way that we kind of we master language is we have to like first learn the alphabet. I mean, that is the basics, as well as with colors, with primary colors, like yellow, red, and blue, which would ultimately inform the latter half of the picture when they've ultimately regressed and they have to kind of like go back, or at least they're essentially being put back. But the sirens, I figured that one way to get the siren song to work was to essentially take the Greek version of the alphabet song that we know and essentially make that into like like my version of the siren song.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. I don't think I really grasped the whole like Greek mythology aspect of sirens, because I mean the obvious, sirens of the police things, but that makes perfect sense now thinking about it. And then the alpha, beta, gamma, delta like fits right into that, and you're giving us a clue that if you're clever, you would have picked up on.
There are all kinds of clues in this movie. In fact, I didn't. I arranged this. I designed this movie. It's often said that like people sort of like design a movie or like create a narrative, like creating a window. But instead, I decided to design my movie like it was a multifaceted gem. So depending on what angle you're looking at it, you will have a specific interpretation of the movie that will essentially inform your experience, and hopefully for anybody who's interested and like takes a real like interest and wants to really dig deep into this thing, they can essentially kind of like choose their own adventure and create and essentially it would be like a new movie every time they watched it.
Okay, that's wonderful, incredible. So I'm going to move on to Andrea because we have a bunch of questions about Farina.
Farina.
Like Farina. Say it again.
In Italian, it's farine, okay, but it's the same in English. It's farine.
Farine. Okay,
I guess.
I'll try. So I've studied French. I took a lot of French and a little Spanish and a little Italian.
They are going to call farine.
Farine. But so whenever I see words in other languages, I always try to pronounce them the way that they're pronounced in the language. So
also in Italy, they are speaking in farina in English. I don't know why.
Huh. Interesting. So this tale is, when we first saw this movie, we were just kind of like, wow, like why? We had to watch it again because we were surprised. We were very surprised by the reveal at the end, and we're wondering where the story came from, because it almost feels like something that you might have read in the paper and then put, that sparked an idea. But like, where was the seed of this story for you?
Okay. No. Okay. Yeah. Actually, the story comes in another way, because it was a feature film. It was an idea for a feature film, and I realized that I couldn't put all the ideas I had in the feature film about the person who became something that belonged to her, but it's a primordial side. So I start to think about a story where I can tell just the theme in the center of the story. So I wanted to tell who is her, for example. I just want to follow her to normal days outside the wood, and that's what's happened. We are following a woman. No, we doesn't know nothing about her, and the revelation in the end is just her nature. So the path between the borders, between the wood and the society, is the story itself.
I notice you have a possession. Oh. I notice you have a possession poster on your wall.
Yeah. Maybe
it's
my favorite, one of my favorite movies. Yeah.
Yeah, mine too. And I think like Possession, some films are very narratively driven. Possession is a film that doesn't tell you its story outright. The story is sort of hidden in the imagery and hidden in the emotions of the characters more than it's explained to you. And I thought Farine did a good job doing the same thing. It felt less like a narrative and more like we had to intuit the story a little bit on our own. I was really struck by the sort of dual images in the middle there, where which I realized must have been shots that were very difficult to set up. When we see the key hanging against her chest, and then we also see the internal of the engine.
Yeah.
Inside the car. that I feel was telling us something about, you know, her links to the world, right? Like something, you know, how she relates to the world that she inhabits. Do you want to talk a little bit about why you pulled those particular images out?
Yeah. Thank you so much because I can't be in the same sentence with Zulaski, but thank you so much. In this particular moment, you are referring, my intention was to bring the audience finally in the horror. So there's a place in the movie. It's the first time we can hear music, for example, and I needed some symbolism about something very weird is going to happen. The trip from the society to the wood was, to me, the perfect time to show the details. It's the first time you see details in the movie. And to me, it was something that now I can start to show something. And the engine of the car is something you see dirty. No, there's something dirty inside her. We are going to see that. It was very hard to explain to the crew that kind of shot. But I think it works. It works in that moment. In that moment, I needed to show something.
Sure. Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely. And your actress was wonderful. Did you already know her, or did you have a casting call? Like, how did you find her?
Not for her. Not for her, because I didn't know personally, but I know her for her movies before. And I see her in the theater here in Milan, and I never heard about it was Anna. Yeah,
she was wonderful. I love the sort of the slow reveal, how you just kind of see her edges at the beginning.
Yeah,
I really like that. Yeah,
she doesn't speak. No, so we work very precisely about how to reveal her nature through the movement, through the way she moves in the settings. And we find this way that from the house until the first time she decided and she showed us to, okay, we are going to understand that she's going to ambush him, for example, but we don't know why. She made this move. She put the rock on the ground and she made this move. This move is something animal. You can see the first time the animal inside her. So we work exactly to how and what we are going to show to the audience from the beginning to the end. She's amazing. She's amazing. Yeah.
We were very impressed with the film. Yeah, we love the look. That especially the daylight scene at that parking area with that golden kind of hue and the blue skies, such wonderfully shot. Who was your director of photography?
My director of photography is Francesco Di Piero. He wasn't happy to shoot in the daylight. I say to him, I want to shoot in the zenith all the movie. No.
It was really nice.
He wasn't happy, but he works a lot to find reference, but we didn't find reference. But it was just, I want to make an horror movie in the daylight,
Yeah.
And that's the idea of the settings. But to me, it was important, the settings and the architecture to have another level of narrative. So we start to think that the camera was still and the sheen was going to build inside the framing, no? Mm-hmm. Except in that time, we moved the camera, we get that long shot because I needed more time to show the waiting, the study. She's studying the territory, no?
Yeah.
So we move the camera, we follow her, we don't make any cut.
Like you're following
all the movie in the first place was in frontality and symmetry, for example. To me, was exactly the situation of her past, cold and alone, in the silhouette in the house. That was the past to me.
Incredible. No, we loved it, that scene where she's like she's a predator and you're following her around the top of that rooftop. It's, yeah, they a lot of suspense there too.
Yeah, it was nice to see that sort of duality of closed in space, like when she's in her car, and how comfortable she is because this is her thing, but then also in this big wide open space, how comfortable she is as well. Just kind of, she's just owning everything about herself.
But you got it. Thank you so much, because to me, in the first place, was a movie that tell the story in borders and settings. All the movement is go and back. So every time she moves from a place to another, I have to have a border to. And then you can build all the path from the beginning to the moment she go outside, because she doesn't belong in that place. No, we know in the end where she's belong. So every time we put one long take, one wide shot, then a little take, a little shot in the details, and again. Was the idea. I don't know if it works, but it was the idea.
I think it comes across, yes.
Now, in this block, we had several films that sort of put the woman as a sort of predator figure, right? Whether it's the ghost in Uzo and Blackcurrant, or the feral woman in Fahrenheit. But I have a question about Lonely Hearts, which is really about two predators, right? I recognized one of them immediately, and I assumed that oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name of the redhead. Polly, yeah. I assumed that Polly's appearance at first was a reference to Blood and Black Roses, or Blood
Black Lace.
Black Lace Rose.
A man.
I think I screwed up the title.
That and Profondo Rosso. Yeah, that and Profondo Rosso are the two big references.
I tried asking.
It's so great that there are people out there that are actually understanding that it's a giallo movie. That it's such an homage to like that genre of film is my favorite. Being Italian, not as Italian as you down there, but I am an Italian too. So like, to pay homage to that, I think to me that genre of film stands up with art house. It stands up to stuff that's at Cannes. It stands up to Possession. I mean, I even consider Possession almost a giallo movie because it has that feel. It has that slowness. It has that stillness. It has that something. But I mean, yeah, just to pay. I'm psyched that people are getting it.
When I first posted our trailer and we included just a little 18-frame shot when she first appears with the rose and everything, and I asked, there's a very specific giallo reference in this trailer. Does anybody? And nobody ever answered. So I don't know if people get it or not, but I got it. I was there right there with you.
Good. You know what, you guys, he can sleep tonight, and I thank you for that.
When I was submitting this, I said no one's gonna get these references, but I'm so happy you guys do. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure plenty of people did too. But I liked how it's like there's sort of a dichotomy between the two killers, right? So there's sort of giallo killer, but then there's the sort of like precise black and white kind of compartmentalized sort of like Dexter style killer,
Yeah, and I mean, so Celeste, because her entire existence is informed by the fact that she was raised in this very isolated, very nature-centric world. So when she is forced to come into regular society, she doesn't understand it. And so she learns how to be a woman from watching old movies. And so she watches Hitchcock, she watches, she learns from like Grace Kelly. So to her, she assumes every woman walks around the house in a house coat, in like a long flowing house coat, because that's what the women in Hitchcock movies do. Or when you go on a date, yeah, exactly, right? When you go on a date, you wear a tight French twist and you wear a tailored suit, and this is what women do. And so we see, versus Polly is Giallo, Polly is Ziggy Stardust, Polly is so many.
Sorry, I don't mean to, like,
That's
grab
okay.
the
It's
mic.
okay. It's okay.
I'm so sorry.
Let him go.
So sorry. Well, no, I wanted to butt in because I'm the great interrupter. Uh, Polly is based on David Bowie. She's, there's a bass behind her, and there's a little cactus next to her. And Celeste is sweet, like candy. Like even when she talks about, so when she's talking to the psychiatrist on the phone, she's not talking about her first love. She's talking about the first guy she murdered and how she misses it so much because she just wants to go back to that and she can't go back to it. And she's stuck in this, like, she's good at coding. We said that she works in code. That's why she's like, just hit the download button. It's, or graphic design or something. She's in that world. But yeah, so the dichotomy was, I said, okay, when she sees, she's used to this buttoned up way of killing people. When she sees Polly for the first time, it's like excuse my language, it's like a effing rock show. It's like her first concert, and that's what I wanted that feel like. There's a smoke machine, there's lights, it's like, oh my god. And that's why she's like, I want to do this. And yeah, sorry,
no, it's okay. No, it's a team. We are a team. So this is really her moment of coming alive and realizing what the world can be, is you can do what you love, and there are people like you. We're ultimately, all of us, I think, feel very isolated, even if we're seemingly normal people. And I think a huge message of this is that Celeste has found her person. She has found her group, and that group is another serial killer, and she gets to be who she is. And so the film really ends when Celeste's life is about to begin, because she's found her person.
Ah, it's so sweet.
It's nice, right?
There's that moment when she's on the phone call with the dial-up friend.
Yeah.
Where I finally, sometimes I can be a little slow on the uptake, but that was finally when she hangs up on her, when she asks, if you're going to hurt yourself or somebody else. I thought, oh, she's not safe for people.
She's about to hurt somebody else.
Yeah, and so to me, Celeste is so much scarier than Polly, because Celeste is sweet. She's if you go on a date with Celeste, you think it's going well, and it's going well for her, but not for you. And that's why I was so frightened of her, and I was also frightened because she has trauma, and that trauma comes out in specific ways. And I mean, we both we love her so much. We love both of them so much. Yeah, it's tough to say goodbye to them after we wrapped.
I know. Yeah, Celeste is just as likely to be mugged as she is to mug. And I think that that's a very frightening, because you're worried for her, because she's not safe in this world, because she doesn't understand it, but you're also not safe around her. And so when I said once before, like when the crazy eyes come out is when like it's not good, because she gets real like earnest, and then she's going to kill you.
I like her. I like also the sort of dichotomy in their approaches. How Polly comes out with the saw, but Celeste pulls like a candlestick out of her bag. So there's like, she's already planned for sort of plausible deniability. Like it was just something she picked up in self-defense, but she pulls it out of her purse, I guess.
Yeah, we had basically every prop from Clue, like every murder weapon from Clue, plus duct tape, because we just like the duct tape sound.
Yeah.
We thought it was a funny punctuation to a joke.
Yeah, I was like, as soon as you say the Beatles, just rip it open, and it was just it worked like slapstick almost, But yeah, but Bethany, you're a huge fan of Clue. You wanted to.
Clue formed who I am as a person. Like big creepy gothic houses. Shout out to gothic Victorian scary things. And humor and scary and murder and humor and, you know, killing people with random objects and humor and scary and blood. So we had to do a little shout out to Clue in the movie.
Awesome.
So I'm curious, because in past, in other source blocks, a lot of the filmmakers are like specifically horror filmmakers. Are all of you like, is that kind of your jam, or do you normally work in other genre films? And and this was a passion project that you really needed to make, or is it kind of a mix?
I was comedy first. I was a stand-up comedian for 7 years. And so I made comedy films, and then I went into horror. And I think that comedy and horror are very, very similar because they make your audience make noises, whereas drama doesn't entice that from people. So yeah, 50-50 comedy,
And
horror.
They're highly dependent on timing. I think some of the best comedians
right.
make the best horror actors and filmmakers.
Yeah, because you're so used to like twisting and twisting and twisting until you release, and like yeah. So yeah, comedy and horror all the way.
Sarah and I had a weird journey towards horror. We've done a couple of horrors previously in terms of short films, but as producers, when we were first getting the company out there, we did a whole slate of different short films to hit the different festival circuits, just to see what we like, and everything from comedy, drama, LGBT, and horror. But funny enough, we've just done our debut feature, and that's actually a horror thriller. It's got a huge amount of horror elements, but at its core is a love story that is filled.
It's actually quite coronavirus.
Slightly.
Accidentally.
Yeah, we shot it last January, and it's now complete. It just so happens it's an isolated couple, and the woman has a
disease. They go out and wear masks when they're outside. But it was horror.
Yeah, Brian will love that.
Yeah,
Brian is tired of seeing normal life on TV. He wants to see things that reflect our current situation.
Yeah.
Every time we watch a Family Guy and they're not self-isolating or whatever, I'm like, this isn't my world.
Oh, I know. Whenever people just touch each other in a social situation, I'm like, stop it, you mad whores! Stop touching each other! Jesus Christ!
So what is are you allowed to tell us what the name of your feature is, and when it's coming out?
Yeah, of course. It's called Rose, and I don't know, do you guys watch Peaky Blinders over there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
cool.
It stars Sophie Rundle, who plays Ada.
Ada, the sister of the Peaky Blinders.
Yeah.
And do you watch Inside Number 9?
No, I've not heard of that
League
one.
of Gentlemen. A lot. Anyway, but it's the director from that directed it, and she's amazing.
Yeah,
Jen.
It's going to hit a couple of festivals, but we're in the midst of selling it. So, you know, before the apocalypse, we were hoping to get it into theatres, but I think we're just working it out at the moment.
Yeah.
Later this year, though.
There's a few festivals, but I don't think we're allowed to say yet.
It's definitely a strange time for films. For all of you as filmmakers right now, because it doesn't seem like people have been able to really get together to film anything, do you find that you're just kind of taking a step back and trying to develop new projects, or get ready for when we can all be back in each other's faces and breathing the same air, breathing each other's air?
So for us, I mean, this was the perfect time, Bethany and I, to just started working on the series Bible for Lonely Hearts. We have it all mapped out. You know, we have the arc. And so we did that. And yeah, I mean, that was the most amazing blessing, was to have all these online screenings and then go, all right, now we know where we're going to go for it with a series.
Kevin, you were about to.
I've taken the time to start building some new creatures and puppets, some continuing from Haunted Swordsman, but also a whole separate idea, kind of heading towards kind of going back to Gothic. This one's like a little Shackleton-y, so I'm kind of building something in that world. But to answer your question, I like to not just do specific horror, but I need to have creatures or horror elements in all the projects I like to work on. And I think after I did Calder's End, I wanted to kind of do something that was more action based. I think after seeing Mad Max Fury Road and The Revenant, I was like, I want to do The Revenant with puppets, like level stuff. So that was sort of my goal and inspiration.
Is there another part of The Haunted Swordsman coming out? Because a lot of people want to know if there's
a couple questions
plans
about
for
that.
more of that film, because it kind of stops when it's like the end of the first part of Lord of the Rings, where you're like, okay, how long do we have to wait to see the rest of the story?
It's both Tab Murphy, who's the screenwriter, and myself plotted out about 5 episodes, so it's more like 4 more of those. So, and there's actually an episode before this episode, so of how he found the severed head. So it's kind of written both as a series and a feature, and we're just going to see what happens when the smoke clears and the apocalypse is over.
Andrea, did you have thoughts on, are you developing projects and working on
I have
pre-production?
I have answers. yeah, because in this particular time, I have a good news to share, and I can share it now because we've seen a couple of days ago, and Farina is going to become a movie, a feature film.
Oh wow!
Oh, cool!
Awesome!
Yeah.
Congratulations!
Amazing.
I'm so happy, and I delivered the script during the lockdown. So during the lockdown, seems everything is not with the future, but it's happened.
Yeah.
So, now we are just going to start. Okay, so we sing and we are going to the process. Okay, but I wanted to answer to your first question about are you all together genre horror directors? And I don't know, but here in Italy is a pretty hard question because I don't know why we have a lot of history about horror, but when you are a horror director right now, you are a low budget, low-fi, low everything director. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I don't know why, but fortunately, it's not ever for all the people this way. But when someone asks to me, "No, okay, you shoot an horror, so are you a horror director?" I just answer that I'm a director. So it's just hard to figure it out how a story can work in movies, without any other construction. So genre is a potential, is not the end of the story, is the potential to tell your story through the genre, not the opposite. So you're not a genre director, you are a director, and you use the potential of the genre to tell your story. So I learned this answer. But okay, that was what I was to tell to you.
How about you, Christopher? Are you all horror all the time, or do you?
I tend to find myself. I do tend to gravitate towards that genre quite an awful lot, even though I find that the genre, it just gives way to all sorts of other themes and other genres, which I find is just so flexible. And also the horror genre is just so much more open to being able to tell more honest, more brutal stories. Whereas more often than not, it's like, oh, well, if it's a comedy, then people should leave a little happier. And okay. But I'm currently working on a feature script. Originally, it was going to be the 3rd short in the series that I've been developing. Siren was the 2nd, and the one I made back in 2016 was one called Socket, about a sadistic doctor who wants to become a photographer. She gets a professional photographer lets her down, and she gets back at him and then some. So there's this theme of brutal authoritarian figures. Socket is body horror, Siren is mental horror, and the next one, which will take place in a nunnery, will be spiritual horror.
We definitely think of horror as being sort of the in all its forms being kind of the essential, human art form, right? It's
right.
the cave paintings, and it's the one that really explores kind of what drives most of our behaviors through life. It sort of exposes all of those things, and that's really why we gravitate towards horror in general, is because we think it tells us the most about humans, no matter what country they're from, whether they're a man or a woman or what ethnicity they are. They're sort of the core of humanity, kind of revolves around the horror that we have at our core, like the experience of fear.
There's something very atavistic about what makes you scared, whereas what makes you laugh like changes socially, and what moves you dramatically changes socially, but what scares you is only ever the same things, the dark and the unknown. And yeah,
I agree. And I don't think I even answered the question about what kind of director I am, but I made four movies, 3 shorts, 1 full-length feature-length documentary. But Lonely Hearts was the one where I was able to be the most me. I was able to take all these stylized ideas in my head and like throw them out on the screen, and as painstaking as the film was, I mean, we did like 24 setups in one night, which was insane because we had so many cuts.
Jesus.
Yeah, 24 setups in one night, and storyboarded and overnights, and like I almost collapsed one night. Like it was crazy, but
I do 6 and I'm like, I'm very tired. I had like a little bag of nuts.
It was nuts. That whole scene in the basement when it was just cutting back and forth. We were literally like, set it up, boom, 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 next cut. But I just love the genre so much. I love it so much. So I think it's something that I'm gonna keep exploring, especially if we get to do it as a series. Yeah.
And I think too that.
And do you guys always work together?
No.
This is our first one.
Yeah, this was our first project together. We've been together about a year and a half now. So like we started dating and then wrote a project. So that was sort of like, well, let's see if it works. And yeah, we're still together, so it worked.
I guess it worked.
Yeah, it worked. But don't you touch it.
Get off the microphone. How dare you? How fucking dare you move your hand away?
What were you going to say, my love, my only?
That's the way
The true test of this relationship. So I was walking to the camera and it was like 5 a.m. and I was ready to collapse, and I wobbled, and Bethany was on her mark, and I looked at her and she stayed on her mark and went, "Are you okay?" I said, "I'm fine. Stay on your mark. Stay on your mark." She was like, "Okay." And she did it, and then she nailed the scene, and I was like, "That's the woman I love."
I will always choose work over him. But back to the point of horror. I think also we have found that people are so incredibly open and willing to go on whatever journey you want to take them on, and I think are much more willing to be open to what reality you're presenting to them. And also I think horror is so wonderful because we are, at the end of the day, scared of very much the same things, but you're able to put all of the different layers of what as a society we are afraid of at the current time. So you get to see reflections of like the fear of nuclear war coming out in monster films, and you get to see like the rise of all the scary internet movies because of Y2K and everything might fall apart. And I think we're going to start seeing a lot more interpersonal horror and relationships and inability to be trusting of people you're very close to, or a fear of people in general. And it's a wonderful history lesson to go back and watch old films and say, okay, I can see where the anxieties were, and how this is how we're collectively dealing with very scary things in our world.
Well, geez, it's probably about time for us to wrap up. We've kept you guys on for a little over an hour, if you can believe it. It goes by so fast. We should go around. I know we've talked a little bit about some of your future projects, but please tell our audience where they can find you, where they can find you online, your website, or your social media. And let's start with Dennis there.
So I have a feature-length documentary that's also making the online festival circuit as we speak, called In Flowers Through Space, as well as Lonely Hearts, which everyone has just seen. DennisCallow.com. I also have a filmmaking podcast called The Carrie Allen Picture Show, where I talk to a lot of different filmmakers and cinematographers, and would love to talk to you guys all at some point. So I'll reach out, hopefully, since we can't do like the in-person thing. But yeah, and Dennis Callow. I'm Dennis Callow on everything.
So I have a podcast called An Acquired Taste, and it's myself and my friend Kathleen, and we do one lifestyle and one weird story every week, and we're just sort of our line is, if you ever feel like you don't belong, you belong with us. So that's mostly a creepy and uplifting podcast. I'm in a web series called Pet Peeved right now, and it's where I play a crisis mediator, but I work on behalf of the pets, not the people. So that's just straight comedy. And you can find all of it on BethanyWatson.com. That's the easiest place to find all the things.
Awesome. Thank you. And Kevin?
You can find me at thespiritcabinet.com. And I am. You can see my past films are available there, and I'm continuing with doing more Haunted Swordsman, and what else? And I just have a regular job at a company called Spectral Motion. Then we do a lot of creature films, and have a lot of stuff coming out that all got stopped, but now we're back in action. So we're building things for that. And I'm also, if you just find me at Kevin McTurk on all the social media platforms. Awesome. And thank you so much for putting on the festival.
Yeah, thank you so
Thank
much.
you guys. Yeah.
This is a blast. Thank you.
It really, it really felt like we tortured over it for a long time, but it really felt, the more we thought about how we didn't know how this thing was going to turn out, the more it felt like we would just continuously be saying, no, next month, no, next month, no, next month. And we didn't feel that was fair for the people at home, stuck at home, or for the filmmakers who are trying to get the word out about their projects. And so we were really nervous about doing it this way, but now we're really relieved. And
good.
Yeah,
Good,
yeah, we're really thankful everybody could take part in it like this.
Oh yeah, such a pleasure. I mean, listen, what the fuck else are we doing? Eating sourdough, sewing buttons on shirts, like nothing's happening. Nothing is happening in our lives. I did a bike ride today like I was 8 years old.
So how about April and Sarah, with your company and individually, how do we find you on social media and find out more about your next projects?
I'm Sarah Huxley on social media. So we've got our personal accounts, April Kelly, and then we're Mini. What's the social tag? April Unit, Mini _prods.
Sarah, you've absolutely let yourself down there. You've really let yourself down.
April's the social media girl. I build budgets.
Mini Productions. We're Mini
Productions.
Mini Productions. Okay.
Yeah. And we're coming out on there, and a load of other content that's sort of coming out, and we're on all the channels.
How about you, Andrea?
Yeah.
How do people find out more about you?
I have a personal account in Instagram. It's the only social network where you can find me, but Ferine is on Facebook and is on Letterboxd, the platform where you can follow the movie and you can share your opinions. So to me, it's the best place, because you can read the opinions, sometimes bad, sometimes good. It matters. So yeah, okay. Andrea Corsini is my Instagram. It's easy to find. But if you want to follow Ferina, is on Letterboxd and Facebook. Cool. For the next project, I'll keep you updated. The movie, there's the first project. No, the next project is called Beasts of Prey. Is the title of the feature film. Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
There's nothing now. There's just a project and a producer. Not bad.
How about you, Christopher? How do we find you and your projects?
Before I get into that, I'd like to give a shout out to my friend Noah Penner, who produced Siren along with me.
I know.
Yeah, he has a short film coming out called Alone in the Arctic Skies, which I'm absolutely positive is going to make a blast in festivals in months to come, as well as my director of photography, Ben Dawson, who was just really, really invaluable, like on the production. And hopefully you can find him on the web. But as for me, you can go on Cinelation.com, where you'll find my production company and my film reviews. And otherwise, that should be easy to find. And I also have my short film Socket, which is ready to view anywhere. I'm currently still tweaking it, so I'm hoping to have like the latest version ready by the end of the month. So if you want to see my absolute ideal version, then just wait a couple more weeks.
Nice.
You'll never stop tweaking it. You never stop. It's never done.
It's important to get off and get on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Make more movies. See, did we hear from everybody? Nat, did you?
Nah.
Oh yeah. If you Google me, I'm Nat, L-U-U, and then it's always me because it's a Dutch surname, and there's no one else with that surname.
She's very funny on Twitter.
Do you know what? Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. I'm glad you've said it.
I do think
it. I am very funny on Twitter. There's cat memes, and it's just very nice content. It's very nice content, actually.
It's that comedy background, babes.
Yeah, it's 7 years of stand-up, mate. That's what it is. And we're all going through a pandemic, and there's just me being pleasant and cheery on Twitter the whole way through. The word hero is overused, and yet I'm going to say it. Hero. Bit of a hero.
Excellent.
Well,
I've had enough wine now, everybody. I've had enough wine.
You're lovely.
Thank you so much, everybody, for being here with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much.
And for coming all the way from the other side of the world.
Festival.
Too.
All the best.
Thanks.
Yes, all the best, guys, and we'll talk to you
Thank
online.
you.
Bye, guys.
Thank
It
you.
means a lot
Thank
to
you
me that
so
we can
much.
all be here.
Oh no, such a pleasure. Of course, we wouldn't be anywhere else. Thank you. Best of luck with the festival.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, he's gonna go kill the feed.
Como é que se chama?
And thank you again.
Leave meeting.